we're back with Washington Unplugged. Let's talk about books, and there's a new one that people in Washington are already talking about, and it's not quite out yet. Mortal Friends, a novel by Jane Stanton Hitchcock. She is here, and I'm told a lot of people think they see themselves in this book. Jane, what's going on in this?
Well, you know, I'm a fiction writer, Bob, and so I like to say that every character is me, including the murderers. Mm-hmm. But I don't think everybody sees themselves. It's been my impression that everybody recognizes someone else and nobody recognizes themselves.
Well, let me tell you, since this is Washington, I'm going to ask the obvious question.
Yes.
Am I in this book? And do
no,
I come off well?
If you were in this book, you may not come off well. That's the true answer.
You are a New Yorker.
I am.
And you
Born
came
and
to
bred.
Washington, and it was a whole new culture for you. I mean, you were almost the quintessential New Yorker come to Washington.
I really was. You know, New Yorkers think of themselves like 16th century Paduans, and we're like the center of the universe. So when I first came to Washington, it was with my wonderful husband, Jim Hoagland, who is the
foreign editor of the Washington Post.
Foreign Affairs
columnist.
editor and columnist and just brilliant.
Knows everybody.
Knows everybody. And so I remember one of my first experiences in Washington was I was at the British Embassy, and a man came up to me and he said, "How do you do? I'm Warren Christopher." And I said, "Your name sounds familiar to me. What do you do?" And he said, looked at me in utter awe, and he said, "I'm the Secretary of State." And you know, Jim my husband, Jim, just kind of loved this because it was a little bit refreshing. And this happened to me with R. James Woolsey, who was once my dinner partner. You know, I
looked
head of the CIA. You know, his place card was there. Oh, R. James Woolsey has a ring to it. I'm the head of the CIA, hello? You know.
But that's good. I mean, he's supposed to be a spy. People are not supposed to know who he is. So.
Well, one of the things I really learned quickly about Washington was that it was becoming very gentrified and much more like New York. And of course, when social life heats up, all the petty jealousies kick in, and I have to say that life is high school with wrinkles. Yeah. And so the feuds and the friendships here in Washington are much more consequential than they are anywhere else, because here they can have global and national consequences.
So tell me about writing the book, and it's a murder mystery.
It's a murder mystery, but I like to think of my books as novels with murders in them, rather than murder mysteries, you know. But this does have a very twisty plot. It's set against the background of social Washington, which are the galas, the artistic, the Kennedy Center, the Folger Shakespeare Library, the National Gallery, but it also goes into the police work and some of the people who social people don't really get to know very often. And it was great fun to write, great fun to research. One of the things that attracted me to the story was, do you remember, of course everybody does, the Chandra Levy case?
Sure.
And I learned quite early on, being a mystery writer, that Ms. Levy was suspected in the police department of having been murdered by a serial killer, rather than the scandal that surrounded her. And three other women of her physical type who had apartments around DuPont Circle, who worked on Capitol Hill, had been murdered before her, and they really did suspect a serial killer. And I thought that, you know, this is so intriguing because the killer was maybe somebody high up in Washington's social life. And so my feeling was, would I know evil if it sat next to me? And my answer is always, not if it looks like you do. You don't recognize evil if it looks like you do. So my book is a lot about not recognizing what evil looks like, about old friendships, and about how Washington really works in terms of the way it is run. And honey, it is run by the women. The women in Washington, I've been at some ladies' lunches where, I divide Washington really into official Washington and superficial Washington. And I'm writing about superficial Washington, which is where most of the work gets done. You would be surprised. I think more work gets done at dinner parties than in Congress. And having read your book, I think you might agree with that.
Well, it gets done places other than in the White House proper and on the Senate or the House floor proper. It
Right.
does. It gets done in the corridors. It gets done with the relationships that
Right.
people have one with another. And probably some of the bad things happen for the same reasons that some of the good things happen.
Absolutely, and those ladies' lunches that I've been to, you know, you see these wives who are the wives of diplomats and congressmen and, you know, cabinet members, and they may look like wonderful accessories in pastel suits, but honey, they are artfully concealed weapons of mass destruction. When they have a whistling campaign, it's almost as dangerous as having Bob Woodward on your trail. I've seen it.
Well, you know, guys being guys think that they just talk about us. But you're telling me they might talk about things beyond that.
We talk about everything. In fact, you don't want to know.
I think this sounds like a great book for this summer.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's a book that tells you how Washington really works, that tells you how friendship really works, and how some of your old haunts from the past can come to haunt you big time in the present. And if we really know ourselves, and if we really know our friends, and then I just hope it's a great read.
Well, thank you very much, Jane.
Well,
and thanks
thank you.
not only for being here and for a great interview, but I'm going to read this. You know, I guess when the work of fiction, you don't have an index, though, so that's going to slow you down.
No, maybe you'll have to refer that to the Washington Post for the index.
Yeah, well, you know, they always said that's what you call a Bob Strauss read. A Bob Strauss read is you go to the index, look for your name, and then read that first.
Well,
We don't have that advantage in fiction like
well,
this.
but let's hope some people recognize themselves.
And
change.
My bet is they will. Thank you very much,
Thank you very
Jane.
much.
You're watching Washington Unplugged.